Buonanotte. How are we doing, Paisans? Welcome back to another episode of Calcio Culture. I am your host today, Logs, and I am joined by the two best in the biz, Vos and Motts. Lads, how are we?
We're hopping on here at 8 o'clock Eastern, and Logs was ripping a Celsius, so we thought we'd give him the intro to get some of that
Absolutely
built
jacked
up,
up.
built up
Jacked up for the night.
I'm back. I made my return. I apologize to the Paisanos missing the last episode. I listened to it. I might never miss an episode again after you guys talk about Ballon d'Or having lottery at 10. I mean, that was just terrible. Awful.
Hand up.
I also agree with that.
In any case, we're back. We're covering the international breaks. Last week, we had a little preview about how we thought Italia would do in these past two games, which we will tell you all about. But before that, of course, we're kicking it off with the shouts that are quickest. And with that, I'm going to be doing it because I love this shit. Couple of Italians, couple of Paisans in the headlines this weekend outside of international play. Again, we're going global. Starting off in Flushing Meadows, in New York, in Queens, we have Sinner winning the U.S. Open. Italian born and raised, taking the trophy home.
First one ever. Also, I wasn't fortunate to go, even though, Logs, we should have probably looked into it because
we should have fucking gone
on the road from us. I did hear nothing but fantastic things about that honeydew drink that they had.
Oh, the honeydew.
You guys should have gone. It held up a bunch of Calcio Culture shit. That probably would have gotten us some new followers.
Sinner also put AC Milan in the winning column because he is an AC Milan supporter. So AC Milan's first dub of the season, people are saying.
I'm not going to count it. I'm not kidding.
We're not adding that to their record.
But this does seem to be the year of the Italians. We have the gold medal. Was it a gold medal during the Olympics?
I think she got a bronze, but you know, give her the gold. Give her a gold because that lady's filled with the cheese. We love that. Whatever her name was, I forget now.
Yeah, but they're on the board in the Olympics, on the board in the U.S. Open, and even in the MLB.
Sam Aldegheri out of Verona getting the nice start for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. People forget they're not just Los Angeles Angels, they're the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. He gets the start. He gets the dub. From Verona, big Hellas Verona fan. I'm sure he's going to love what we're talking about later.
Good for him.
Yeah, this again.
We're baseball guys. We're not baseball.
Yeah, we're still year of the Italian. But what we always have to do is give a quick look at what's going on over at CBS because we're still trying to get on there. But we do have to give a shout out there, Motts.
Somebody got married. It's the one, the only, the beautiful Kate Abdo. Gorgeous. Her legs when she's standing up. Oh my goodness. They look so, her curly hair. Kate Abdo is a smoke show. She got married. She's officially off the market. Thierry Henry, somebody go check on him. He's not okay. Kate Abdo married, I believe his name is Malik. He is Wilder's trainer for boxing. And on a CBS one time on one of their post-game shows, Jamie Carragher said that Malik is not faithful to Kate Abdo. And Malik basically said, like, if he says that again, I'm going to punch him in the face.
Kate, if it doesn't end up working out, hit up Calcio Motts at Calcio Motts. That's 2 T's. He's waiting for you.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we're done with the random shouts, and we're getting on to some footy shouts here. First one in Italy. There was a little crazy incident that happened in, I don't even know what division it was. It was way down there.
6th division. Basically what happened was, I don't know what teams this was between, but there was essentially there was a breakaway and one of the defenders on the other team slipped. And so it was literally about to be a one-on-one with the goalie, but it was like towards the right-hand side of the field. And one of the coaches came off of the sidelines and tripped the guy on the breakaway, got an immediate red card. When I saw this highlight, all I could think about was, I don't know if people have watched this TV show, Friday Night Lights. One of their players, I think Smash is on, or maybe it's Tim Riggins actually, is on. He like breaks a big run, about to get a touchdown, and the other team's coach goes and tackles him. And that's all I saw when this happened. It was insane.
Well, what I don't understand about this is when I play like men's league on the weekend, like nobody would even consider doing this. And this was a professional game. I don't know how this happens. I think it's got investigate. You have to be like banned. This is like a banishable offense, I feel like.
Yeah, this job must have been on the line or something. Who knows what?
He had a second mortgage on the game, so obviously he had to figure that one out.
Yeah, Giants 6th division. Beans, click the button. He had money on the game.
The Buffalo Wild Wings button, the best.
There must have been something going on like outside of this in his personal life, because you don't react like that in any way unless there's something else going on. And
yeah, that's true.
that goes hand in hand with my comparison, because the guy in Friday Night Lights, his wife was dying of cancer, and that's why he did it. So
we hope this guy's wife is not dying of cancer.
All the best for his wife.
Yeah. But it was still crazy. We'll post that on TikTok so you guys can see if you haven't saw the highlight, and Instagram. Crazy play.
Yeah, crazy. But moving it over to Germany, some interesting things going on in Dortmund. We had Jurgen Klopp returning to coach the alumni game, essentially. So good to see him back in the black and yellow. But more interesting, Lucas Piszczek and Jakub Błaszczykowski played a match against maybe 1,000 kids, and it was the two of them. And watching them actually dribble down the field against this army of kids is insane. If you haven't seen it, just look it up. I don't know. I don't even know how they are good enough to get past this kid. There's so many kids.
Because kids,
it's crazy.
Oh, is that Motts?
It's dumb. Like, obviously you can get by on.
Well, it takes me back to when I think it was Kagawa and the old AC guy, Honda. They were playing with each other, and they were playing against literally 1,000 little kids. That came out the wrong way, but it was really funny to watch.
Yeah,
in any case, as the lone CR7 stan of the pod, I do need to shout the man out. 901 goals. The first professional player to hit the 900 mark, and all this man can think about is 1,000. What kind of mindset is that? Come on.
100 of those goals were scored in the black and white Juventini, although out of those 100, I think it was actually 125 or something like that. But out of those 125, I think like 60 of them were PKs. Shout out Penaldo.
He's still hefty though. 125 in how many seasons? I mean, it's still pretty good.
4 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's stuff like that's like this that I kind of forget how good he actually. I always, because obviously you compare it to Messi, and I personally think Messi is substantially better. But then he just pulls out stats like this, and I realize that he is second best. And sometimes I even forget that he is second best, and why there's been this argument of Messi, Ronaldo. This is ludicrous numbers, like absolutely ludicrous.
He's 100% second best. And let me just say, the gap between Messi and Ronaldo and everybody else is so goddamn big. And even in today's game, like Mbappe and Haaland, you would say are like the new Mbappe and Messi, or the new Ronaldo and Messi. No, they're not.
It's not even close.
No.
Well, I mean, Mbappe's numbers with PSG and Ligue 1 do not touch Ronaldo and Messi's numbers in La Liga, and that is so much harder to do in La Liga.
So much harder. And I'll even say this, when I was listening to you guys talk last episode about rankings, dude, I'll say it. I will be the first to say it. I think Mbappe is kind of mid. I'm not gonna.
Oh my God.
It's not mid, but bro, he really doesn't do a whole lot. Like, he really doesn't.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because he does it really
fast.
I know, but he does it so well that it's okay. Like, until he gets stopped, we cannot say I understand your point. I fully understand your point, and that is always my Mbappe counter argument. But nobody has been able to stop it yet, which is why he is not mid, and he's really fucking good.
So no, like he's really good. He's not mid. I take that back, but he was so good when nobody knew about him, right? And now everybody knows about him, and you can take him out of a game. If you are that dude, no one is taking you out of a game. Like, nobody took Messi or Ronaldo out of the game. Like, people, consistently take Mbappe out of the game.
I would not say consistently, because I go back to the World Cup final and I was like, oh, they took him out of the game. They took him out of the game for like 70 minutes and then he just popped off.
Okay, yes, yeah. He had one great goal. The other two were PKs. Like the other ones, he didn't do a whole lot.
I understand, but well, after the season at Real Madrid, this is more of a
This is a
there's
really good test.
revisit there. Yeah.
I mean, sure, but if he plays good with all the other best players in the world, then yeah, he's gonna be good. Like they
Also,
look.
you could say the thing about Ronaldo and Messi.
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
Well, I will say somebody that was not taken out of the games this weekend, my boy Tijani Reijdners had an absolute shift for the Netherlands this weekend. Motts, what was the stat line?
2 goals, 1 crossbar. I believe he also got an assist to Joshua Zirkzee, who also
sir.
had an assist. Wanted to just give a quick shout out to Joshua Zirkzee. Hey, Coleman, look what happens when you don't start fucking Memphis Depay and you start Joshua Zirkzee. You have a bunch of link-up play. You have a bunch of opportunities. You win some games. Maybe you should have tried to do it in the Euros.
Who knows?
Oh,
Who
yeah.
knows?
Also, you guys probably should have spent that money on Zirkzee because Reinders and Zirkzee looked like they were playing together since they were fucking 6 years old, balling over there. Reinders looked great, though. Could have honestly almost had 4 goals.
The only bright spot at AC Milan right now.
Pavlovic.
Pretz and
Pavlovic.
But
yeah, keeping it with AC. Yeah.
Guess maybe it's not just a Milan thing. Theo looking like he's gonna get dropped from the starting lineup of France. If I didn't watch the second game of France, I saw some of the highlights of the France Italy game. If it was anything like he's been playing like in Milan, this makes sense. He doesn't even look like he tries out there anymore.
Grain of salt. I'm not going to say that these were, I mean, not even for Italy. We talked about this. This wasn't the strongest pull for the Nations League here. So I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, but you're right. If Theo doesn't turn the shit around and look like he wants to be on the pitch, he's going to have some issues.
Yeah, he needs to figure that out. And it's still like a partially a AC Milan Fonseca issue that really needs to get resolved is number one. And if he doesn't start this coming weekend, this is a more serious conversation of he has to leave then. I mean, he is one of the best outside backs in the world. Like top 5, I think, is probably agreed upon. Definitely at left back.
Well, he was the best left back going into the Euros in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was for sure.
The best left. But even moving it on to Leao for Portugal, he got an assist. He looked good. So I think, Vos, you hit a nail on the head with it's more of a Milan Fonseca thing than really anything besides Theo specifically.
Yeah. Interesting conversation though on a couple Serie A guys, but to round out our quick shouts, we had a little comment on TikTok. Michael752, shout out him. What did he say?
Shout out 752.
He said it was the TikTok that I posted about our boy Cavada, and he said it's crazy how the Serie A does not get talked about more. They have some of the best teams, best players in the league. Well, we put him on to Calcio Culture. He's officially a new Paisano. We're talking Serie A. We've seen it for the last 3, 4, 5 years. This league is by far the most competitive league in the top 5 in the world, I'd say. Obviously, top 5 of Europe. There's been, 4 winners over the last 5 years, Inter being the only one to double up. Every other league is essentially maybe a 2 to 3 max race, if that. So shout out to Serie A. We love how people are recognizing that this league is actually a very competitive league. They dominate in Europe as well, being that they have 5 Champions League spots. So Michael sees it. People are trying to see it, or everyone is starting to see it. And that is mainly due to Calcio Culture, but it's also due to the Paisanos. We appreciate you guys. Keep listening, keep supporting, keep commenting, keep rating us 5 stars. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Paisanos. And of course, we're going to take a quick break here. Great quick shouts today, a bunch of niche topics. But when we get back, we're getting to the meat. We're getting into the Italy Nations League performances, and we're heading back to Serie A to do some power rankings. We'll be right back.
And we're back from the break, guys. And this is Vos taking over host duties. Lugs, thanks for the baton. We're getting into the pepperoni, the meat of the episode, starting with Italy's Nations League performance on Friday. They beat France 3-1. And then earlier today, which is a game I haven't watched yet, they beat Israel 2-1. Heading into this weekend, big spotlight on Spalletti. We said it last week. It was a question of how they're going to set up, who was going to be playing. And this was a weekend where Spalletti really needed to get a result. He got 2 results, and one of those results was against arguably the best team in the world, certainly the best team in the world over the last 5 years, I would say. And this is a great starting point to move on. I'm not sure this is 100% representation of the best Italy squad or the best France performance that we're going to see. Nations League teams, it's not the same stakes, right? And for a team like France, I will say this, I think it's a little bit hard for them to motivate to get ready for a game like this when they're more so competing for World Cup finals and Euro finals. But with that said, 3-1 against France when they started a lot of their best players is a phenomenal result. And this is a chance for Spalletti to build on going forward, get momentum back, get the nation back, and get confidence back in him ultimately.
100%. I mean, we talked about this last week. Couldn't have been a bigger moment for Italy and more so for Spalletti. And they came out, they showed out, they pumped France. A little slow start, but it's going to happen. And then they came out and they solidified the weekend against Israel today. Absolutely love to see the performances that were on the pitch. A lot of players stepped up. I think this team I think this is the right path for them to start to gel, to really solidify the core, the new core that Spalletti's looking for in the starting 11 and more so for the entire top 23 that they'll bring to the World Cup. So I really could not have imagined a better 2 games for them going into this next part of the European leagues.
Yeah, especially like both. I agree with you that maybe it's tough for France to get motivated for a game like this, but whether they're motivated or not, the talent that they put out on the pitch of that starting lineup was World Cup winning-esque. And the talent that we put out on the pitch was probably not even our best guys. It was in some positions, but by far not nearly our best lineup. And to see them come out, play united, play in a system that worked, great to see, and 2 games in a row. So obviously that wasn't anything we were able to do in the Euros, where we weren't able to string it together for multiple games. This being able to string it together for 2 games is great to see. Also, I know within the game, it wasn't lined up like this, but I think now we're going to be sticking with a 3-5-2 on paper, which Spalletti couldn't fucking make his mind up in the Euros. It was, 4-3. Let me go to 4-3-3. No, let me go 3-5-2. No, let me go back to a 4-3-3. Now with these 2 results, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming it's going to be a 3-5-2, and then we're going to plug and play slightly differently based on who we have plugged in.
Yeah, that is my biggest takeaway from this. I think if this goes poorly and we lose if we lose to France, he doesn't come back to the setup and he scraps it again. That's like we've seen him do in the past. Things go wrong, he scraps it. Now you have 2 results to go ahead and build on. And like you said, Motts, it was a 3-5-2, similar setup to how we played against Albania first game of the Euros, where Pellegrini and Frattessi were kind of joining the front line and making it kind of like a 3 with Tonali and Ricci. This was in the France game. I think we're going to use that as the best example. Tonali and Ricci really being the true kind of 2 center mids, how you think of like a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. And then the other really big difference, I have to say, I think this was a key piece of this, was Cambiaso as a right wing back versus in the Euros, it was Chiesa out there who basically didn't know what to do. Cambiaso has played this position so many times now, and he can play as a conventional wing back. He can come inside. He can do so many different things. And also having the left-footed guy in the right ends up making a big difference. And I thought that was a huge, huge piece of this team. And Logan and I had talked about this last week a little bit. If this is how they continue to play, I don't know where Chiesa is going to fit in, even if he hits form.
So I was actually reading an article today on a reporter asked Spalletti that if you stick with the 3-5-2, where's Chiesa go? And he basically said you could play him as a second striker who goes out wider, but we've seen that with Allegri and Juventus. Granted, I think Spalletti has more of a tactical brain than Allegri, where he can kind of figure out some fluidity to make it work a slightly more than Allegri could. And Allegri was much more just like a very stiff 3-5-2. But he basically said he could play a second striker, but when Chiesa is the second striker, it won't be two central forwards. It will be one wide forward and one central forward.
And I think
I know.
what could be good with that and is a little bit dangerous with that is it would realistically be one of Pellegrini or Frattessi who would then be benched to get Chiesa in the team. From what we've seen, I don't see a scenario where Spalletti is going to bench Pellegrini. And I don't.
You can't bench Frattessi.
And that's the other issue, right? Like me and Logs called out Frattessi last week saying, where do you get into this team? He ended up playing with the 3. He played well in this position and he does it right. You can't take him out of the team, how he's been playing. That's the thing. He's got 2 goals in 2 games. The other goal scorers were Dimarco, Raspadori, another guy in the hot seat, although his goal was kind of a fluke. It just kind of like, I don't know. It was just really bad defending. And then Moise Kean scored today. So with how things are going, you can't really, if he's fitting into this system well and playing well, you're not going to drop Frattessi to get somebody else in there.
There's certainly a lot of time between now and when these games start to matter for the World Cup. But I think my biggest takeaway from that discussion really is, one, the depth that this team will have if all of these players continue the form that they had this weekend. I know that my big comment last week was you have to get your best 11 on the pitch. That is going to be, from what I'm seeing now, completely dependent on the form that these players are in, because you look at the midfield 3 and they were phenomenal in both games. You're also forgetting that Barella was not on this squad. You're forgetting that Locatelli was not brought to this squad. So that's 2 names that presumably will be starting come World Cup time, so that you have Ricci and Frattessi on the bench. If Frattessi doesn't get into the Inter lineup, which we talked about, he may not get enough minutes for Inter going forward. And then you look at Chiesa, depending on how he plays for Liverpool, I'm not going to be mad if he's coming off the bench. I mean, that's a huge talent to come off the bench in international play, to have him come in 60th, 65th, 70th minute, fresh, brand new legs into a squad that, you're playing, a mid team like, I don't know, call it Uruguay in the World Cup. Chiesa can take over a game in the second half there. So again, the depth here I think is the biggest thing that I realized. And if everyone keeps this form, Italy will be in great shape from that perspective.
Yeah. And just to add to the depth thing, Logs, I think a guy that we got to keep an eye on scored a goal today, scoring goals in Fiorentina, Moise Kean. This is his first goal since, I believe, 2021. Scamacca's obviously injured. So we need somebody else. Retegi's obviously looking very good at Atalanta, had a great assist in the first against France. But if we can have players in form and just give Spalletti an option that they can go to and play well off the bench, that is obviously an added luxury. And listen, the way that everybody played, it's going to give Spalletti a decision a tough decision, which is what you want. You want the competition within the team. You want to make Spalletti's job tough, to be like, who should I start? Who should I be playing? I think there is only one person who should no longer be on the squad.
And I think I'm going to guess it's the guy that me and Loach called out last week.
Yes.
We need to phase him out.
Di Lorenzo needs to be gone. And I think that there's a player on Juventus who's going to be a very, very important player for this team under Thiago Motta. Juventus already rejected bids from the Premier League this summer because Motta said this guy's going to be an important player. And Motta's going to develop his game, and that guy is Federico Gatti. I think he can plug it. He's going to be in a lot of big games, playing the Champions League. Obviously, he's going to be playing the Serie A, but he's going to have a lot of tests, and depending on how he does, which in the first 3 games, he's done amazing. I know those are just 3 games, but after this season, I think he should take that step. And I know Spalletti, I know you've said he is your son. Sometimes you can't play favorites. Just cut a man loose.
I agree. And Motts, I think you and I had talked about this a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about Juve and how good Gatti has really been. It hasn't been like, oh, this is a guy that needed to improve. It's a guy that's just so good. And he just hit another level this year, and he looks like a guy that's going to be a starting center back for Juve for so long. And really, Logs was has been saying this since Gatti came through when he wasn't even really a starter. So this is a huge piece that Italy's picked up, Logs, that now a guy that was falling off, that we said is falling off, has to get phased out. Perfect time for somebody to step into it.
I've been big on Gatti since the man showed up on the pitch for Juve was it last season, the season before, when they were all talking about how this man was literally running a farm 2 weeks prior.
Laying bricks.
Laying bricks. He might have been a mailman, who knows? But then he showed up to Juve and has been an absolute stud for them. Big Gatti fan. I do think that he'll play an important part going forward, especially as we see Di Lorenzo phased out. But Motts, I do want to make a point. Let's not make it too difficult for Spalletti to pick a lineup, because as we saw in the Euros, he simply couldn't. He crumbled under the pressure of not knowing what to do there. But one last point I'll touch on here, Motts, that you brought up, and we touched on it a couple of times before the season started. Big shout out to Moise Kean. The man's been a journeyman for a couple of years. He had a stint in the Prem. He's been on Juve for a bunch of years, riding the pine. But we talked about it. Sometimes a guy just needs to get out of the huge spotlight and get to a team where he can feel confident. And that's exactly what Fiorentina did for him. Granted, Fiorentina has been playing like absolute dog shit. But to that point, Kean has been a bright spot. I'm glad to see that he's gotten an opportunity so far to shine like that. And then for him to bring that confidence from Fiorentina to the Italian squad over the weekend was a great thing to see.
Yeah, and he's just going to continue to get playing time. So if he could just keep on rolling this form over. But one more thing, I wanted to quickly go back to the right center back, because you guys talked about this on the last episode. The way Mancini's playing too, I think he deserves a spot in these international breaks. Like against Juventus, he played extremely well. So you got to see how he does throughout this season. But I think Gatti and Mancini are legit options, because Di Lorenzo is no longer an option.
Yeah, they're very different players, which is going to give Spalletti something to think about. I think Mancini is a little bit more athletic than Gatti is, but he doesn't seem to be a guy that Spalletti really likes. So I see this going in the Gatti kind of favor. But I just want to bring us through a couple more lines here and a couple more things that I really pulled out of this game. Calafiori has somehow gotten even better already. He was unbelievable in this game. What we saw in like the Euros, him joining the midfield, joining the attack, it was like even another confidence level where he was like absorbing pressure as the last man with the ball and then beating two guys and then releasing it like a press resistant center defensive mid that's going to progress the play. This guy is just going to continue to get better. And then right next to him, Bastoni continuing to do what he does best, just being all around dominant center back. So if they can really get this right side guy squared away and commit to playing in this three, this is maybe the best defense in the world very quickly.
Having Calafiori step into that joining the midfield role as a center back is huge for this lineup. I think that one of the points that we touched on last week, and I think that's been a question mark, is who's going to be the holding midfielder for this three-man midfield? Because you look at Tonali, who wants to get forward. Frattessi obviously wants to get forward. Barella's an engine who's all over the place. Ricci seemed to be that one midfielder that kind of stayed back a little bit. But that was because Calafiori was able to join in and hold that two-man midfield while everyone else was allowed to get forward. And so having that ability to be fluid and to jump into the midfield from that three back was huge for this lineup. And if he can continue to do that, I don't see how they morph out of this back three. The only question mark is, again, that right center back, but they have options, and this should be an extremely strong back line for Italy going forward.
But I'll take it even a step further, because Calafiori, towards the end of the game, he did pick up a knock, so he didn't play in game number 2. And then Spalletti just pushed Bastoni over to the left center back and then threw Buongiorno at center back, which is a super big luxury to have. Like, Bastoni's natural spot is the left center back. And we've seen for Napoli, Buongiorno can play left center back. We know he can play center back. We've seen Bastoni play center back. So they have a guy like Buongiorno on the bench that can plug in on either left center back or center back, depending on what happens with Calafiori and Bastoni. So if they can really just figure out this right center back, this the starting three could be the best, but even the rotational three
Yeah,
could be.
that's very
best.
true.
They're deep. The depth is unreal.
And
If
that's
this
not
keeps-
even
they
that's
could-
not even talking like when you go out to the wing backs, it's the battle on the left is Dimarco, Udogi, and on the right it's Cambiaso, Bellanova,
Which
who are also phenomenal players. Bellanova started today. Again, I didn't see his performance, but he's a guy that's continuing to get better. But Logs, you had kind of jumped into the midfield there. Tonali, and again, it's kind of like a 2, it's kind of like a 3 because how Frattessi kind of joins the attack. Samuele Ricci, Torino midfielder, insane start to the season, playing so well, and then comes into this Italy team and was just a rock solid defensive kind of minded midfielder. He was the ball keeper. We talked about how Beans may be that guy going forward for Spalletti. Ricci has made a serious case here. And I think what he does benefit from is coming from the Torino 3-5-2 and knowing how to play in this kind of a 2-man midfield where you need to be really careful about when you're going and when you're staying and how to recycle that ball. So this is one of the few guys that actually already plays in this system that's Italian, that's more defensive minded. Obviously, we talk about Barella, but Barella is not going to play this kind of role in a Spalletti team going forward, which makes it interesting because Tonali was also very good. But when Barella comes back, Barella is better than that in that role than Tonali is. So maybe it's Tonali dropping into the Ricci spot. Maybe it's Ricci coming out of the team or Ricci staying in the team. And then that's going to be a very interesting development to continue to watch because I would agree that Tonali is probably deserving to be in our best 11, but Spalletti's going to have to make a decision. Who are the best guys to play in this system every day? Because I don't think it's Barella and Tonali based off of what we've seen.
I think it's based off of personnel or who they're playing. So,
Well, if Spalletti hasn't shown us that he knows how to adjust per the opponent, so let's at least start with a consistent lineup is what I'll go with. But you're right. I mean, Ricci played phenomenally, and he did play that role that was we thought was missing, was a holding midfielder. He does play in that system at Torino, and I say this without any bias, and I've never talked about this man with any bias, but Tonali is absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
The way that he's returned not only for Italy this weekend, but you've seen him in the past couple of games for Newcastle, the way that the fans have welcomed him back with open arms and have absolutely supported him throughout. This man is a talent, and you cannot leave him on the bench. I don't think this one's a negotiable. I think he's right. He's right next to Barella in, okay, you guys are for sure going out there. Who's going to be your third for the partner in there? Because again, Barella and Tonali to the same extent, they can excel and play in so many different spots in the field, gives you a ton of fluidity. And you saw it in the play with Dimarco, whether you think it was bad defending or not. I mean, the tiki-taka was just stupid. And yes, France was flat-footed, and I think they just were watching. They got their popcorn. They were just watching the ball move past them. But the link-up play, Tonali being in that position, being so far up the field, but then coming back, opening himself up for that pass. He's creative. He knows where to be. His IQ is through the roof, and he's going to be in the starting lineup come World Cup time.
100%. Tonali, I was very, very impressed from what I saw with him in the 2 games. I obviously, Logs, we've been having this conversation for so long now. You obviously have been a Tonali fan. I've been on the Locatelli side. I think when the conversation first started, Locatelli was better. He made the Euro team, won the Euros. Tonali got left off. I think since that Scudetto winning season, Tonali has, oh my goodness, surpassed Locatelli. It's not even a question anymore. You were right. I was wrong. He needs to be in this lineup 100%. He can defend. He can control a game. He can pick out a pass. Needs to be playing. If you have Barella on the other side of him, that's going to be 2 horses, 2 guys that can literally do it all in the midfield, score, assist, defend, win the ball, pick a pass, do everything. Where I think, and why I said this earlier, is that third midfielder. I thought Ricci did really good against France. I don't think he did amazing against Israel today. And I think that's exactly like you said, Bose. It's because of the system he comes from. When we're playing a team that maybe pound for pound has more talent than us, he's used to defending, not going up, picking and choosing when to defend, when to pass, when to go, because that's what Torino have to do. They play on the counter a lot. They have to defend a lot. When we're playing a team where we need to possess the ball, I think maybe Fagioli, Locatelli put in that role because they're used to maybe being on the ball more and just swinging it from side to side or just having the ball at their feet a little bit more. than he is. But one other person I wanted to give a shout out, when we play a 3-5-2 and not like the 4-3-3 like we were doing in the Euros, oh my goodness, Dimarco is so good. He is so, when he's on kind of just isolated on the left flank by himself, can put in crosses. The volley that he outside the footed was disgusting. It was a great pass from Tonali too. But you just like in the Euros, Dimarco was not himself. I would say he was just bad. These 2 games, he was great. He was the Dimarco of Inter. So he balled out. And then, like you said, both on the other side, when Cambiaso plays, it allows for so much more fluidity. I think when Bellanova's in, he's more of like just get up and down, up and down, up and down. And I think that's going to be where Spalletti can kind of use Cambiaso and Chiesa to interchange on that side. Because Cambiaso, I see it all the time with Juve. This man, he might be one of the best players in the Serie A. He's so underratedly good.
I think he's a top 5 Italy player. I would probably have him top 3. I think he's that good.
So good. He is so good.
I think he's good enough to literally play for any team in the world and start. That's how good I think he is.
Yeah.
We're seeing that at the start of the season. I think he's been Juve's best player. And that's 100%. One of the hottest teams in the league. And when you're one of those players, you're now getting to the point where you are good enough to go play wherever you want. And we're seeing this happen right now. Like before our eyes, Cambiaso is becoming one of the best players in the world. And it's happening.
I actually read an article when he signed for Juve that his manager said like Premier League teams wanted him. Pep was interested. Arteta was interested. And he was like, yeah, it's not about the money. It's about Juve. It's about bringing Juve back to glory. So you got to love that in Cambiaso as well. But I couldn't agree more. Like he's 2-footed. He can play every position. He can defend. He's hungry.
Yeah, and what I think sets him apart from a lot of the other guys that are like quote unquote these good guys that are versatile. You compare like a Frattessi, that's like a really good example. Can kind of play everywhere on the pitch, but Cambiaso's skill set is just he's good at everything. And like most of these versatile guys, like he's serviceable here, he's serviceable here. Cambiaso is one of the best wingbacks in the league. He's one of the best midfielders in the league, and he's one of the best forwards in the league if you play him as a winger. And he starts on every team in every one of those positions.
I hear no lies. But I think one thing that Motts just made me think of there, and without getting too hot on Serie A, even though we obviously are, you look at the lineup, and aside from Donnarumma, who's a rat, and he plays in Ligue 1, and Calafiori, who's fresh out of Serie A, every single one of these guys plays in Serie A. They play in the same league. Oh, and Tonali. But he hasn't even played in the Prem. It's fine. In any case, these guys know they come from the same roots. And it's so apparent. I think they need to lean into that and allow them to gel that way. These guys, they just looked like a brand new team against France. And I think that once they get that going, and again, kind of going, it's showing the progression of Serie A. The talent level that's coming out of Serie A is just top tier. And for them to get that fluidity across on every single position and to play together like they have, you think about when you just said it, look Italian beans, if they're playing a certain team, they can come in and fresh off of a Juve game and just play together. Like that's a huge add that a lot of other national teams do not have.
Yeah, it definitely is. If going forward, what's going to be very interesting is to see when Barella comes back into this team, how they set up then. Because that's going to be very different from what we saw today. Barella is different from all these players that are playing. And that's going to give us a better idea of, okay, this is what he's trying to achieve ahead of the World Cup. Because Barella, we've been saying it forever. He is the first one on the team sheet by far and away, right? It's him and then Donnarumma, right? Like those are the guys. But I do want to give a couple quick shout outs to some other guys here. Destiny Udogie, a guy that Logs, we were really excited. We're worried. How is he going to get time? He got 30 minutes in the France game and was playing with Dimarco for 20 minutes, which is very interesting. We talk about deeper benches. This is a guy that can be an attacking winger, and that's really how he played. So love to see that one. He's a really good guy to bring off the bench just because of pure athleticism, 1v1 ability. That's a really good one. One of the guys I'm not so hot on, Raspadori, came in. He did score a goal. I still don't think he's a great option. I think there's better guys out there. We already mentioned Moise Kean And Bruscianini got some minutes. I'm happy to see that. I think he will get more and more integrated into this team, especially if this is how they're going to play. I think he could be one of those guys that plays the Frattessi role very well. He kind of is used to that sort of position on Atalanta. But this is great first step for Italy. I see it getting even better, and I'm so excited to see Barella come into this team.
They look hot. If they keep the form, if these guys keep playing the way that they are in their domestic leagues, I don't see how Italy's not in the conversation to hoist the cup come 2026.
Good shot, Logs. Love it. Italy's going to win the World Cup in 2026. Logs calls it September 2024.
You heard it here first.
All right. And with that, we're done with the Italy talk. We're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we've got a Serie A power rankings 3 games in. That's going to be an interesting conversation. We are back from the break, guys, to break it down. The power rankings, like we did on the preview episode for the whole season, we're going to go through the whole table 20-1. We'll be a little bit quicker on the back end just because there's not a ton to talk about there. But Motts, what are you looking to say here?
This might get juicy.
This is definitely going to get juicy. Logs is already getting mad about some
I'm
stuff.
fucking heated.
All right. But we're going to take it in little bite-sized pizzas. We're going to go 5 at a time, starting 20 to 15. We have Venezia dead last, Como 19, Cagliari 18, Lecce in 17, and Monza in 16.
My qualm here is twofold. I think that you guys are still, Motts is on the train, but I still think Vos, you're wrong. Como is a quality squad. They did a great bit of business to end the window. I think that they're going to show out. Give him a little bit of time to gel. Varane's out. I guess he was never going to be a piece. He just wanted to have a little quick pre-retirement game there. He's out. But the youngsters that they brought in, talented. I think that they're going to take him pretty far. And my other qualm is, I think Monza is ass. They're horrible. I think that they're right up there with Venezia, in my opinion. And I do think that they're going down this season. Unfortunately, I think they were a fun squad last year. They got absolutely ripped apart. And I don't foresee them being a big team this season.
Yeah, I don't have much to report back. I think Venezia, maybe they can make a run, but I mean, it's so tough. These bottom 5 is so tough to call who you think is going to go down because they're all so close to each other. But yeah.
I think the Monza take there is a little harsh, Logs. They tied Fiorentina and they tied Empoli, and Empoli's been very, very good to start this season. So I think that's a little bit harsh. My only thing down here is this was a collective power rankings. I think Cagliari is good enough to stay up, and I think they're going to leap Lecce. I know they just lost to them, but Lecce is leaking goals right now.
Yeah, I think Lecce goes down. I agree. Venezia, though, like Torino has been on a great start, and they lost. They should have tied that game. Torino squeaked out with 3 points.
Over the course of the season, I don't think Venezia, they try to defend, and they're just not good enough to hold off all these teams for the rest of the season is my issue there. Cagliari has played some really good teams and has held them, and they've been a very tough opponent. That's why I'm still kind of hot on them.
In any case, moving on.
And we move on.
This is where it gets juicy.
This is where it gets juicy.
This is juicy. All right. 15 to 11, we have Bologna, AC Milan, Fiorentina, Genoa, and Lazio rounding it out at 11. Logs was really mad about something here, so I'm going to let him start.
Milan has looked really, really bad. I'll be the first one to say it. They looked terrible so far. They haven't figured it out. They've got issues in the locker room. The players aren't gelling. We've got Calabria and Calabria 2.0 every time we get out on the pitch, and it doesn't look good. But what I will say is that all of the teams that we played are not mentioned in this bottom 11. These are hot teams that we've decided that are playing really well, and we just have gotten off to a shit start. So to take us all the way down to 14, even though that's exactly where we stand on the table today, with the talent level that we have, you give us a couple more games past Inter. I do say past Inter because we are playing. We go Venezia, Liverpool, and then Inter.
Sounds like an easy schedule there.
Hopefully we get it going against Venezia, so we have a slight bit of momentum going into Liverpool coming to San Siro. but we played good, hot teams so far.
Dude, but
for us,
your argument right now is AC Milan's bad start to the season is okay because they lost to Parma, tied Lazio, and tied Torino when they should have also lost that game. And this is
we showed great resilience against Torino. Parma has been playing out of their goddamn fucking minds. And Lazio, sure. Yeah, we played like dog shit and Lazio shit as well. We had no business tying that game.
What is your argument? Should they not be in this position? Like,
my argument is that they're too low. I'm not saying that we should be fucking top 3, but to put us at 14 is abysmal.
Okay, but here's the thing, Lowe's. Here's the thing. Let's say we'll play best case scenario, you guys beat Venezia. Okay, you got Liverpool and Milan next, 2 L's. Like flat out, you're losing those games. Now Fonseca is once again in the hot seat. Like, oh, maybe we kind of right the ship with a win at Venezia. Then you're back in square one, and then Fonseca is gone soon. He's gone, and then you're starting all over again. New manager, new tactics, new all kinds of stuff. So you're starting so far below, and no matter what happens, you cannot go get a right back. So everybody just knows, go attack the left-hand side.
And there's been no positive signs yet at all. Nothing. Other than Pavlovic. It had nothing to do with Fonseca. And I don't see it's getting better. The only reason I have them higher than Bologna is Bologna looks like they're never going to score a goal for the rest of the season. And Milan has better players.
Bologna actually looked good. Like,
yes, I agree with that. But my problem with them is they don't have a guy that's going to go and get goals unless Ndoye becomes that. And I don't think he is that.
I'm agreeing with you, Vos, that Bologna, I would have had Bologna higher than Milan too, because they actually look good. They understand what they're trying to do. They just can't do the end product. Milan, nobody knows what is supposed to be happening on the pitch, offensively or defensively. You have to still figure out where you play Loftus-Cheek and Reinders. Benacer just got hurt. I'm pretty sure I saw that he's out for 3 months. Not that might hurt you guys because he hasn't really played. You got to figure out what's happening with Theo. Is Tammy Abraham going to be good? He looked good for 5 minutes, but is that going to continue? There's so many question marks, and everything up to this point has told us Fonseca is not the guy to answer those questions.
The fat lady hasn't sung on AC Milan. Yes, we have 2 unbelievably difficult games coming up that, yes, I already chalked up L's on the schedule there. So be it. The question marks make me feel like this is the worst it's going to get, because the one thing I have seen is that we're resilient. We don't give up. We played hard to the end, and we've been a decent second half team through the first 3 games. So I'm not going to just give up on the Milan team, especially given the talent, because at the end of the day, if Fonseca doesn't know what to do, just pull the international play and just put the best 11 out there and let them play soccer.
Yeah, but he's clearly not willing to do that.
It's been 3 games. It's been 3 games.
And we've seen
it's been 3 games, and I do think that this team has the talent level to just figure it out by themselves. They hate Fonseca. I hate Fonseca right now. If at all for anything, go out there, throw everything you've done in practice out the fucking window and just play ball.
They just did that. They just did that against Lazio.
All right, and if we played like we played in the second half, we would have won the game, but we didn't.
Yeah, but this is the last point we'll say about Milan. We'll move up. At the end of the day, if you have a halfway decent left winger, they're scoring a goal. They're getting by Calabria. They're getting by Emerson Royale. If you have, all you need is a player of Zaccagna's caliber. Zaccagna, is he a solid player? Yes. Are you going to play better wingers than Zaccagna? Yes. So if they have a Zaccagna-esque player, you guys are fucked. At one point in the game, you guys are going to get fucked.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many questions there. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, after this weekend. But to move on, in 12 and 13, we had Fiorentina 13, Genoa in 12. For me, these are teams essentially that I would be fine flip-flopping either way. They've been good. They have good rosters. This is where I would expect them to finish in the table, though, generally.
Fiorentina's got to finish higher than this for me. They've had a slow start. Fiorentina's a little weird one because, some games they'll put 3 away, but they'll also allow 3 goals. And then another game, they'll shut a team out, but then they won't score. I'd love to see Moise Kean continue the form, keep scoring, but I think you're really seeing the glaring holes in Nico Gonzalez and Bonaventura leaving, and Opani hasn't started so hot right now. But Fiorentina is a team that I think will grow into the season and eventually finish higher. Genoa,
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. And even Robin Gosens netted one last week. So if they can just get the right guys going, it could be a different story. Genoa kind of in the same boat. They've been playing a little bit more free ball and just trying to, that's what they're 1-1-1. But that's going to continue to be a developing story. Overall, I think Fiorentina's squad is better, but as things stands, Genoa just performing a little bit better.
Genoa got a great result against Inter, so that's probably why we gave them a slight nudge over Fiorentina. But we do anticipate this to probably flip-flop soon. And then moving on to Lazio at 11, kind of a similar boat with we don't know what we're going to get with Lazio, right? They played a great game against Udinese. They played a decent game against Milan. And then who they lose to? That was, let me see. My mistake. They played a great game against Venezia and then lost to Udinese. So you don't really know what you're going to get with them. They have decent players. They looked good against Milan, but we don't know a whole.
For me, I have them up here because when you watch them, you at least understand they are trying to achieve X. And they're also, their key players are getting hot already. Like Nuno Tavares is getting hotter. Tati Castellanos getting hotter. Zaccagni doing what he's been doing. Guendouzi, Ravella. Like you have these key guys that have clear roles, and I would anticipate them continuing to get better, albeit their ceiling is not a Scudetto winning team. They're simply not that good.
And don't forget, Romagnoli's been playing well. To your point, Vos, at the beginning of the season, consistency is key for this league, especially when you see 14 managers turned over. So the fact that they kept a lot of their starting lineup and their players are still playing decently well, they're going to be mid-table. Their ceiling is capped, but they're at least going to keep their name in the race for the top of the table, but not the D top, at least top 10.
Yeah, and moving on to 10 through 6, and I'm going to use this as a segue as to why I think Lazio are not breaking into this. We have Empoli at 10, Roma at 9, Udinese at 8, Parma at 7, and Hellas Verona at 6. The reason I have Empoli edging out Lazio is Empoli are very hard to break down, and they are going to get more results than Lazio because you can kind of play through Lazio sometimes if you are a good team. For me, Empoli hasn't done anything overly insane. They've just been very hard to beat, and that's why they're in at this spot, and I think they could actually finish up here if they continue this.
Yeah, that's valid. Empoli's only allowed 3 goals. Lazio's allowed more. I think that has to do with Empoli understand they need to defend. They're going to probably be outpossessed most games, while Lazio think that they should be the one dominating the ball, so that can leave them open to counters. So that makes sense. Reason why we have Roma at 9 is because
I would love to know why Roma's at 9.
I'll tell you why. They've had a very, very tough start to the season, had a fantastic answer against Juventus. Juventus was one of, if not the hottest team in the Serie A, and they completely shut them down. And Juventus played all their new signings. Coop Miners was in, Douglas Luiz got in, Nico Gonzalez got in, and Roma completely shut them down. I think they had maybe 2 or 3 shots on target, 0 XG. That's why, and it was in the Allianz Stadium, so it was a great answer by De Rossi. All they have to do now is figure out the offense, which they will. I'd even say he figured out the balance because there wasn't as much of an overload on the right-hand side. What he did was he just totally abandoned Soulé and Dybala at the same time. He said, we're only playing one of you guys at a time. So that was great for the balance. And also one more thing, they brought in 2 more center backs to help the defense out as well. What do you want, Logan? Why do you think Roma should be lower?
Yeah, I'm going to say something too after you. So
they scored 1 goal.
Yeah,
they've scored 1 goal the whole season.
They have to figure out their offense. They got the talent.
That was my exact argument 4 minutes ago for AC Milan, and I got absolutely thrown in the trash can. I cannot believe. Yes, they played well against Juve. Perfect. Great. That's fine. But they scored 1 goal. What have they shown aside from a 0-0 draw against Juve? They should have 9th in the power rankings. 9th with 1 goal. They scored 1 goal.
AC Milan have scored 5 goals. 5 goals. And
5 in 3 games.
Goal differential. So
5 in 3 games.
What gets you? How do you get higher position? You get points. when you're just conceding goals up the wazoo, like that's not okay. This Juve team probably would have dismantled Milan. Roma's performance against Juve was, let's right the ship, let's defend as a team. Yes, I don't have them higher because I don't know when they're going to start scoring goals, but Roma could easily fly up to 4, 3, or 2 in this if they do get that together. But
so Roma has their defense together. AC does not. But you know what AC does? Have their offense together.
No, they do not. No, they do not.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
What is more important to have together, your defense or your offense? If you
Clearly,
don't,
it'll put you in the same spot on the table. So clearly,
not let in a goal, you're going to at least get 1 point if you don't score. If you let in a goal, you're not going to get any points. So clearly, defense is more important to have, especially in the Serie A where it's a defensive league. Like having your defense organized is more important, especially with a team like Roma when they have a player like Dybala who can create a thing of magic, just like Leao can. But because Leao can do it, Milan's already going to be down 1-0. Roma's going to be 0-0, and then Dybala will make it 1-0. Then they can steal 3 points. Having
this league is completely offensive. We saw that through the transfer window, but we'll see. I mean, I just completely disagree with Roma this high. If we're going to put AC at 14, but I will hold the rest of my comments until the fat lady sings come December. And if AC Milan is in a relegation race, so be it. I'm a man. A man can sit here and say that I was wrong. I'm not wrong yet, but I will if it comes to that. But we'll see because AC is going to figure it out.
You can't say, but this is a ranking of how things are right now. And Roma are better than Milan right now. You can't say, oh, they're going to get better because we're ranking them how they are right now. Like you're saying, we're just assuming they're going to get better. How many times have we seen some of the best squads in the world fall down?
Half of one team doesn't work, and the other team doesn't work. Yet one has 5 goals and one has 1.
I wouldn't say Milan's offense is figured out. I would say they scored on a corner kick. Rafael Leao brilliance has really been one of the things that shined through. And you can't always rely on that, as we've talked about so many times.
Lucky as shit. And also, Roma have hit the post twice. So if Roma don't hit the post, they win or they tie against Empoli and they beat, Cagliari. So it's a little bit of unluckiness. I agree their offense has not been figured out, but having your defense compact and solid is going to get you further than having your offense put together.
My final piece is here. When I look at Roma, I can point to they're doing something well. After the Juve game, before that they weren't, but that Juve game was legitimately like a statement performance. We figured out our defense. Now we're going to move on to the next piece. With Milan, I can't point to a single thing and say they're doing this well.
I'm just glad this is recorded.
Yeah. Now next, jumping up to 7, we have Parma. Parma has been the surprise of the season, amazingly so. The Romanian ringers, Dennis Mont, he might not be on the team come December. Somebody might go and buy him. He's so good. They beat Milan, and they also barely lost to Napoli. Probably should have gotten at least a point out of that in Napoli and tied Fiorentina. This is a legitimate squad. We've talked about them every single week so far. They hard to break down. Very good on the counter. They score goals. This is going to be a team time and time or week in and week out that's tough to beat.
Yeah, I don't see this form slipping off because, as we talked about, they have actually quality players and play in a way that is going to get you points when you don't expect it, kind of thing. And they have just been executing that so well. And I have no reason to think that's going to stop. Why they're not higher is because they're not going to take the game to anybody. And to kind of break into that next level, you need to be a team that's bringing the game to everybody else because they're not really they're not built to break down Cagliari. Like they're just not built that way. Like they might get a win, they might get a draw. They're probably not going to lose. And as the season goes on, I think we're going to see more draws from them than some of these other teams that are going to be above them.
Yeah.
I don't see them losing to worse teams.
Yeah.
I think that they're just so solid enough at every single position. And they have enough individual talent that they're not going to lose to the bottom half of the table. And so that'll keep them at least in this 10-8 conversation.
And also, like, with those 3 games, that is such a hard start to the season for a newly promoted team. And to be here, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, and the loss was by the skin of their teeth loss to Napoli, who was literally one of the best teams of the league, is just incredible. And their confidence must be so high right now to think once we start playing anybody like quote unquote bottom half teams, they're not going to lose. Like they have to feel like that right now.
Agreed, 100%. They got a good goalie back there too, and
Suzuki.
they kill you on the counterattack. They're going to be a very exciting team to watch all season.
Yeah. But moving on to number 6, Hellas Verona. The reason I have them there, the opposite, kind of what I just talked about with Parma. They want to bring the game to you, and if you are asleep, they're going to beat you. This is a very good team. Juve kind of schooled them a little bit, but they are very, very good and are going to be a horrible team to play against consistently.
Versus Verona. Had them at 11 for the preseason rankings. Good shout. This team looks phenomenal. Yes, they got worked by Juve, but that was easily Juve's best game this season. I think you can just completely write that off. I think that I'm serious. I think you can just write that off. I mean, Juve looked spectacular. Vlahovic was on at that game.
Yeah, they were.
So I'm not gonna ding Verona, who's typically not that great, not that strong of a side. As of right now, the first game against Napoli, they caught him off the wrong foot. Buongiorno wasn't playing, but they still put up 3, and then they took Genoa to a 2-0 win. They looked very strong. I don't think Genoa even had a decent shot that game. So Verona, good spot at 6. We'll see if they keep it up. But I think they're a good spot. Good coach too.
Quickly say this because Logs, you said something that made me think maybe we're not being clear here, and we should have maybe made us more clear in the beginning. It's not where we think that these guys are going to finish in the league. This is a power rankings of right now. So it's like after 3 weeks, what do we think the teams, the best teams of the after 3 weeks? But this is by no means us saying Milan's going to finish 14th or anything like that. Like this is just what we see as a power ranking here.
Like if this went on and nobody got any better or any worse, this is where we are. That is the way of thinking about it. 100%.
I think Logs is taking it like Milan's going to be in a regulation battle over here, which they might. I mean,
if this keeps going on, they for sure will.
To keep us rolling here on Verona, next 2 games, Torino and Lazio, that's going to be the real heat check for them because they can maybe caught Napoli off guard, and then they got schooled by Juve, and then they brought it to Genoa, who's more of like a kind of mid-caliber kind of team we talked about. So those are going to be very interesting games, and that breaks us into the top 5 here. Let's do 5-4-3 first, because 2 and 1 is a separate conversation. 5-4-3. We have a little bit disagreements on this one. We have Atalanta at 5, Torino at 4, and Napoli at 3. Motts, I'll let you start here.
Atalanta, we have a 5. Started off hot. They got schooled by Inter, kind of showed a lot of their weaknesses. Inter, I think, put on tape how you can really beat a Gasperini system. Now, much easier said than done because Inter and Inzaghi's system just plays so fluid. It's hard for teams to replicate that. But they really showed, drop those strikers in. Your center backs are going to they're going to follow, and you can have wide open through balls down the middle when your midfielders make runs off strikers. But they're still a great team, and it's really just their center backs that they're lacking in quality. Torino, we've said it all season so far, tough to break down, and we've seen a much bigger step up this year in attacking play. They only scored 36 goals last year. They're scoring goals to win games. They have a great partnership with Zapata and Shea Adams. We saw what their midfielder Ricci did with the Italy squad. So very hard to break down. Good squad, and that's why we have them we kind of came to consensus at 4. And then I had Napoli at 3. This was probably my doing. I was hammering.
This was
Napoli.
Absolutely Motts' doing. He just spotted Napoli, and that's just why we're all going to get a chance to talk about this 5-4-3.
I just think, listen, man, Antonio Conte is 3 games in, but you are seeing the effects of what Conte can do. They are united. They just beat Parma by the skin of their teeth. Yes, they got butt fucked by Hellas Verona 1, but he's righting the ship. He's getting his guys. Lukaku knows Calcio. Conte knows Lukaku. Cavada is Cavada. Buongiorno is Buongiorno. It's really just try to not let Di Lorenzo get burned, and then everyone else will be good. 1 game a week, they're gonna be here.
Atalanta, yes, Atalanta has shown that they will have quality this season. 5 is a good spot. They got absolutely worked by Inter, but I don't know if that was a doing of their own, but at least they stuck to what they know. It wasn't like they changed up their game plan just because they were playing Inter, which I can respect. Wasn't the right call. Inter absolutely pummeled them, but that's why they're at 5 and not at 4. And Torino has done exactly what they needed to do to start this season. Compact. I mean, Motts hit the nail on the head. Compact, hard to break down. They squeaked out the win against Atalanta, but that's how you win games. I mean, if you can stick in there and you can get a little bit of luck on their end, that's how you pull out 3 points. So good for them. And then Napoli, it's coming to fruition very slowly, but Motts has been preaching it. 1 game a week. 1 game a week. They're not looking to prepare for a Champions League draw. They don't care about a Europa draw. They don't care about Conference League draw. All they care about and all they're focused on is the next game. Tom Brady said it best. I'm on to Cincinnati. These guys are on to whoever they're playing next, and that's it. So good for them. That's going to help them out throughout the whole season. And the fact that they've got that gel going is spectacular.
Where would you have them if I didn't cry and say 3?
Napoli,
Yeah.
3.
Bose, where would you have them?
5. And I'm going to tell you
Idiot.
right now. I would go Napoli, Torino, Atalanta still. The Atalanta-Inter result, I think, scares us a little bit. And then the Torino-Atalanta result is also, when we look at that game and what actually happened, Atalanta probably should have scored 3 goals. They missed a penalty and to get a level draw there. And what they do well, they're going to continue to do well. Again, I think last 2 results were a little bit of a fluke, and I'm going to leave them at 3 in my power ranking because of what they were doing in those games. The result itself were like kind of surprising because everything else was going well. And then Torino at 4, I have them there over Napoli at 5. And the way I'm looking at this is if Torino and Napoli played right now, and I really wish they were because I think that would be an incredible matchup right now, I am edging towards Torino because of how they've been playing under Vanoli. And Vanoli is kind of cut from this Conte skin, like played under him or coached with him. And he's a little bit more offensive, more bring the game to you. And I think that my actual prediction is I think they're actually going to finish top 5. That's how good I think they're playing right now. And if they can continue this, they are so good. And I think they're the only team that's outside our like traditional top 5 that is pulling this off like Vanoli is not going to be there for 1 more season if he keeps this up. He's going to get picked up by a massive club. They look like a completely different team than we've ever seen from Torino in the last like 10 years. And he's doing it with the same players. And arguably he's missing Bongiorno. He's missing Bellanova. And you go through the team and there's guys like this. This team is incredible to watch. And Napoli is on the right track. These last 2 results were really a big deal. And they're moving in the right direction. But last game, they 290 plus goals against Parma. And Parma's very good, yes. But I haven't seen enough from Napoli that says, we can do this week in and week out. Torino's on 1 game a week too, and they look like they're ready for it every week. I haven't seen that Napoli's ready for it every week yet.
My concern with Torino only hinges on, do we really believe in the front line to keep doing what they've been doing? Duvan Zapata is so hot right now. Shea Adams coming into the new league, new player, he's hot. Do we think that they can continue it? I think that that's a huge part of this. I'm not sure, but if it's anything like Duvan and Atalanta a couple of seasons ago, then Torino will be in great shape going forward.
And I just go back to, you have a manager who is new, hasn't been there, hasn't done that. And then you have Antonio Conte, who is not new, has been there, has done that. And then you have 7 players on the Napoli team that have won the Scudetto. You have Torino players who have never finished above like 10th or 9th place. So
not Duvan Zapata.
Duvan, the only one. A lot of the time it comes down to players that already know how to win, have been there, have done that, and even managers that know how to win.
Yeah, I mean, you're also forgetting some of these other players they have. Illich, Ricci, even Milinkovic Savic has been top 5 goalie of the league so far. He's been unbelievable.
Yeah. What did Torino do last year? 9th? What did they do the year before that? 9th? What did they do the year before that? 10th?
Yeah, now they're playing completely different. That's my point. They brought in
the players don't know how to win, is what I'm saying. Those big games that you need to win, they don't know how to.
I think it's going to be different this year under Vanoli, but we're going to see. That brings us to number 2 and number 1, which we have unanimous. We agree. This is 2. This is 1. I think that the gap between 1 and 2 is still quite large. Juventus at 2, Inter Milan at 1. I'm not even gonna let Motts go first. You go first because I don't want to hear about Juve yet.
I mean, it's just super clear what the difference is here, and it's 4-0 against Atalanta. I mean, it was absolutely scary. It was like Halloween times 3. Inter looked like they were in pure mid Scudetto form again already. Inzaghi's in mid-season form. The rest of the squad's already there. We go back to their summer window. They didn't make a ton they weren't splashing around. I mean, this is the same squad from last year with a couple of extra guys who are perfect complements to what they had going last year. So they just got marginally better, and this league just hasn't caught up just yet. What is happening in Turin, though, is just phenomenal. I didn't watch a ton of the Roma game, so I'm not going to speak to that. But the rest of Motts ball that I've seen has been so exciting to watch. The difference between 1-2 and the rest of the league here is massive, in my opinion. Absolutely massive. The way that Motts has gotten this team to gel and to work, the way that it has so quickly, is an absolute surprise to myself. But from what I've seen, I don't see that changing. These guys love playing for that guy, and I don't see this 19-point gap that we saw last year coming back and happening again. But Inter is still definitely 6, 7, 8 points better than Juve, in my opinion.
I think go, or do you want to go?
You go.
I can go? Okay. I agree with everything you said for the most part, Logs. Inter is so good, and we're coming into a season now where Lautaro hasn't even gotten started yet. And Marcus Thuram is just kind of carrying the goal scoring load to a large degree. Dimarco is balling out. Like, you just go through the team, everybody is already hitting their form. And there's no reason to say that's not going to continue. And at the same time, I think we're seeing a new version of Inzaghi even. I think that Atalanta game was a big statement for them. Yes, like, you just beat the shit out of Atalanta, but they played in a different way, which I don't see from Inter all that much. They kind of stick to what they know, but they had the wherewithal to play like with even more fluidity. And Acerbi looked like he was 21 out there. Like, it was ridiculous. And if you can just continue to get these guys going, we haven't even seen like the best of Zielinski yet, or Frattessi, who's now coming into form with Italy. Like, you go through the team, Taremi hasn't even really played. There are so many guys like that, and there's nothing telling me they're not just going to be dominant again. And the reason why there's a big gap between them and Juventus is what we just saw in the Roma game. The Juventus is still learning, right? They're learning the Motts system. There are going to be stumbles. With Inter, I don't really expect many stumbles. Obviously, they're going to lose a game here and there. They're going to draw a game, but it's not going to be, we're still figuring out the system. What I will give to Juventus is, I don't think we've seen their best 11 start a game yet. Douglas Luiz hasn't started a game. When he has come in, he has looked next level from everybody else on the field. If we're going to continue to see that, we've talked about Cambiasso enough. He's going to continue to get better. And I think by the end of the season, there is going to be a question of, can Juve keep him because of the fees that are going to be tossed around? Bremer, Gatti coming into form. Like, we can just go through the team, Juan Cabal. Everybody's hitting form. Like, they're just going to keep getting better and better. I still have questions about Dusan Vlahovic, which is still worrying to me. He's not been consistent, and I'm still a little bit worried about his goal scoring capabilities. But this is a good team. And Yildiz is another guy that we're watching here, like, continue to grow into this phenomenal player before our eyes. But they're just not as good as Inter, and that's the problem.
We also, what I will say to that is, Douglas Luiz hasn't started a game. He's going to get to form, and he's going to start games. Hoon has not started a game, has not been incorporated yet. He's for sure going to be playing 90 minutes going forward. And Thuram, also going to be a huge piece of this midfield, has been hurt. So,
and Nico,
they certainly,
like, I forgot that they even had
and Nico hasn't even come in yet. So no, they have not had their best 11 out there, and it'll be extremely interesting to see how they mesh. Motts?
I think this is going to be a 3-horse race for this Serie A. I don't think Inter finishes more than 6 to 7 points with if they win the league. I think it's between Juve, Napoli, and Inter. I think it's going to be extremely close between those three. Juve have looked very, very, very strong defensively. I know they haven't had the biggest challenges yet in who they played, Como, Hellas Verona, and Roma, who haven't found out their offense yet, but they haven't even let up, or they've let up 1 or maybe 3 total shots on target on defense. That is, no matter who you're playing, like these players are going to create opportunities and they're going to create dangerous chances. Juventus haven't even allowed that to even happen, which is, and it's 3 games in, which is a crazy statement because the more that they play together, the more continuity that they get, the more that they're going to solidify their defense and the harder they are going to be to break down, which is amazing for Juventus to start this season. And then the offense, they still need to straighten out some details. Dusan is probably their biggest question mark. I think they're getting great plays from Cambiaso and their young players in Yildiz and Bangula. And then Coop Miners. I just echo everything you said about Juventus. I just think that it's closer. The gap between Inter and Juventus is closer than what you guys are saying. And even Napoli, Juventus, and Inter. Onto Inter, I think that, listen, against Atalanta, they looked amazing. It was some of the prettiest soccer I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. It was beautiful. But that's what they do against Gasperini. Inzaghi just understands how to beat their system. And since Inter do know their system so well, it works to their advantage. If you go back last season, they demolished Atalanta both games. Other than that game, I really don't think Inter has played that well. Besides Marcus Thuram and Bastoni has been playing well in Pavard. But they
and the rest of their squad.
No. I understand that, right. Like, they've
struggled. 1-0, and then Thuram got tackled in the box. The Genoa was 2-2. They should have lost that game. Thuram was offside. So, yes, they played great against Atalanta, but they already own Atalanta. Gasperini didn't change anything. And I think that you guys are saying that, oh my goodness, because of how beautiful their style of play was, which it was, oh my goodness, these guys are far and away better than everybody else. But they really haven't looked amazing besides that one game, in my opinion. So that's why I think that it's not as big as a gap. I really think it's a 3-horse race between these 3 guys, and it's going to come down to 3 to 6 points for the Scudetto, and Milan's going to finish in like 10th. I just wanted to get
watch out for AC.
I want to get that jab in there.
Yeah, no, I know. I felt it. I felt it coming. Don't worry. I was ready.
We'll wrap up here, but I don't even think that that's that insane of a shout. I don't think Fonseca is going to stay. As of right now, he's not going to be around, and things get scary when you start sacking people mid-season.
We're getting Veroli.
4 games in.
You say Vanoli? We're going to get Vanoli. That'd be hilarious.
We're getting Vanoli.
Well, guys, that wraps up our power rankings. When we come back on Wednesday, we're going to be giving previews for the Serie A as it comes back. I'm very excited about this. There's a lot of good matchups this weekend, and we're going to continue to see this never-ending story unfold before our eyes. Logs, where can the Paisans follow us?
That was beautiful English right there. Thank you for that. Paisans, you know the deal. You know where to find us. And if you don't, open your eyes, because Calcio Motts is running rampant around the city and his beautiful merch. Shout out Rob. What a beautiful t-shirt to be wearing around. Find him at your nearest pub, and you will maybe get featured in a little Instagram photo. That will be at Calcio Culture FC. You can find us on X, TikTok, and YouTube at the same name. That is not 24. It is FC. And you can listen to us as you are now on your favorite streaming sites, Spotify and Apple Pods. Motts, take us away.
International break is over. Calcio is back with European soccer. We're ready. Let's go. Paisanos, don't be a gagoots, and Forza Calcio Culture.